Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, Merry Christmas. I just watched the remake, the 2019 remake of Black Christmas. And it was interesting. I love Black Christmas. I watch it every year for Christmas. I only discovered it a few years ago, but it's one of my Christmas movies now. Stars Margot Kidder and Olivia Hussey, and I really love that film. It's a very simple film. It's basically a stalker hunting girls who live in a dorm. But it's not just one night of stalking. It's not just sort of one sort of set piece. It's good. Now the remake is interesting. It starts off really well. It has moments where you think it's going to get really political, and some people would call it woke, but basically they deal with the issue of SA on campuses, which is, you know, running rampant and has been for generations. But they handle it fairly well. But there are moments where I was sort of watching this thinking, am I going to want to watch this every year? Is this fun? Because it's a little bit too real and serious in a few parts, because they are talking about SA, and you know what SA is. I can't say it on YouTube because they don't allow you to talk about real things or use certain words, or the algorithm will get you. But the main character is a victim of SA. It happened 3 years ago, and the guy who committed it, they didn't believe her. Basically, he basically got away with it. Everyone heard about it, everyone knew about it, and he's come back to the campus, and she's sort of stressing out, and there's like a talent competition that they go to, and they do a little dance number about the campus basically doing what they did, which was slip something in, you know, slipping things in girls' drinks and, you know, essaying them, and just the general culture of the fraternity, the R culture. I can't say the grape culture, you know what I'm talking about, which is a problem in society, particularly in certain institutions, and they get into it fairly strongly, and it's good because there are moments where you'd think it is getting too much, and then they seem to show both sides. They show that the girls are being a bit too political, and they're not really looking at the real issue. It's more about winning and you know, owning the men sort of thing. There's a little bit of that reality, but there's also the reality of what is happening and that they have to deal with that, and what the reality is of being a woman in a patriarchal society, in particular, you know, the campus sort of culture. And it's going fairly well. There are two people who get killed. One gets killed really early on, like in the first scene, basically, and I thought it was a bit too early. We didn't get to know them. And there's another one who gets killed fairly late, about midway through the film, actually. And then the third one, sorry, I forgot there's three, who gets killed about an hour in. And that's when the film turns fairly drastically, because I remember thinking, wow, this is going really slow. They're spending a lot of time building the characters and spending time with the politics. When are we going to get to the actual horror movie? Because it feels like a bit much at times. And then it turns all of a sudden, and you have a case of, there's a man after all the women in the house, and he announces himself to them at once. He's got like a bow and arrow, and he starts like shooting at them. And it's like, oh, that's why there's only 20 minutes left of the film, and it seemed to not be where it should have been for a horror movie at that point. And they're outrunning the guy, and they eventually kill him, and then more show up. Basically, the whole fraternity is after them. And I thought that was kind of brilliant. But then it got really stupid, because they're dealing with witchcraft. Basically, the founder of the house, whose bust was removed from the school because he was a bad guy, by one of the girls who's very political. She's trying to get one of the teachers fired and that. And once they brought it back into the house, because they basically gave it to the fraternity to keep instead of having it on display, they discovered it had magical powers, and they start anointing pledges with this black blood that's basically coming out of this bust, and then they become like possessed, and they're like an army of you know, alpha males, and it gets a bit ridiculous. And I'm like, damn, they were really going really well, because they could have believably had it that the Just was a cult and these men were dedicated to doing this and dedicated to, getting their power back and everything, and really believably showing how toxic that can be. And then they go all supernatural, and then because they go after all the women on all the campuses, and you see one of the girls go to one of the other campuses, and you see the women are fighting the men there as well, and some of them escape and they go to the main campus, because the girl has the, of course, traditional supernatural idea of, destroy the bust and it'll break the curse and free all the men, basically. And it is that. There's an element of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in this, which is not what I thought I was getting with this film. And yeah, it really hurt it, because I thought it was a far more powerful film when it was dealing with reality and the current sort of politics of our day, and the idea that a whole fraternity of men would go after women like this and then know that they were going to be protected would have been far more of a bigger statement, a more interesting statement, than doing this supernatural thing. So eventually the girl goes in, she gets caught. This guy who's been interested in her gets anointed, and then he's one of the bad guys. And eventually, one of the things I liked is the women aren't, aside from the big fight where it does look like a scene from Buffy with all the Slayers at the end of the season, the women aren't supernatural. They're not superpowered. They're not superwomen. They're not like like knocking guys twice their size out with one kick sort of thing. There are moments where they are overpowered, and it's realistic, and it's sort of scarier that way, because they're not. It feels like they're a real sort of not consequences, real sort of I've lost the word, but then towards the end it does get that there's a scene where the girls, they've snatched the bows and arrows from the guys, and they're all fighting, and it looks all choreographed, and I'm like, this was going so well, and then they just went to supernatural Buffy Town. They end up, she breaks free from the guy, which is done fairly well, because it's the guy who SA'd her who's now on top of her, holding her down again, but she gets out of it, and she breaks the bust, and of course all the men like go back to normal, and they trap them in the fraternity, which is on fire, and they basically stand outside while the fraternity burns, and presumably they're all killed, and no loss. And that's sort of where the film ends. And like I said, it was going so well. If they just kept it in normal human terms and just had it be a cult of toxic men, it would have been a far better film, far more interesting and disturbingly believable. Whereas this, they just undermined everything they did before that with the supernatural stuff. So it's really weird. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I did watch the alternate ending. And at the very, very end, when the guy, because the guy who's courting the main character the whole time does escape with them, and at the end the girls are all holding hands, and then at the end of because there's a pan shot of all the hands like holding each other, and then at the end you see the guy, and you see a drop of the black fluid that was like coming out of the bust that he was anointed with, dripping out of his finger, or dripping from him like it's still in him. Like, oh no, the fraternity, the zombies are going to come back or something. And I'm like, thank God they didn't use that. It was a Blumhouse film. It was pretty good. But yeah, it was sort of like Get Out, where it's like they have to give you this big twist, and it's over the top, and it undermines the whole rest of the film, where it had a fascinating political statement spin on traditional horror tropes and everything, and was realistic in a way. This has the same problem, where it just undermines itself with this need to have this big trick sort of gotcha surprise ending. And yeah, no. Don't know if we're watching this every year like the original, probably. But if I'm running short of time, this will be the one that gets cut, because the first part of it isn't really fun because it feels a bit too real, and then the second part is just ridiculous. So yeah, we'll see. But I'm really going to go because this is nearly 10 minutes. I was not planning to go to 10 minutes. The film cost, I think, 5 million and made 15 million, or was it 8 million? Go on, computer, open up. Yeah, 5 million. It made 18.5 million. So it wasn't a big hit or anything. It was directed by Sophia Takal and written by her and April Wolf. So it was written by a woman, directed by a woman. It's well made. It just, it's almost like they were afraid to make this real big statement and they had to like make it safe by making it supernatural and fantasy. And I just don't understand why they did that. Was it the studio who said, no, you're getting too real, we have to like make this safe somehow? That's what it felt like. It felt like it just cut its own, I was going to say balls off, but cut its own ovaries out basically. But yeah, I'm really going to go this time.